But I'm just in the process of revising our combatives curriculum, and one area that we've had admitted in the past is that of using a knife for self-defense. What I'm going to do is present the arguments why we don't include that, and if anyone has any counter arguments or things like that, more than happy to hear it. If you can prove me wrong, then so be it, because we're all about self-improvement and improving what we do in our team. You need to know the context that this is taking place in. We live in Sydney, Australia, where it's illegal to carry a knife, okay? It's illegal to use it for self-defense. So from that perspective, you're going to go to jail for doing so. And if I was in a situation 2-on-1, I'd rather try my hands and see how I go. And if, so be it, I get a little bit beat up and I'm not as successful as I'd hope to be, well then that's one beating I take as opposed to going to jail for X amount of years, 10 years, and taking beatings on a daily basis. So when you look at it from that perspective, I'd rather try my hands because that's what I do. The exceptions to those rules are, if it is for religious purposes. Now, I'm not that paranoid that I'm going to wear a turban everywhere just so I can carry a knife on me. So, we can scrap that one. The other reason is if it's a tool of trade for your employment. So if you're a butcher, for example, and you need meat cleavers, if that's the case, you're allowed to carry them to and from work. But if you're on the train, you can't be carrying 2 meat cleavers around. They have to be, stowed away and stored safely, which makes accessing them a problem. Now, accessing a weapon in a moment of self-defense is an issue anyways. If you have the state of mind to be able to think clearly, to be able to access a weapon, which means you haven't been ambushed, it's brewing in the process, wouldn't evasion be a better strategy? If I was walking to my car at night and there was a bunch of guys around it, I'd be better off going back into where I was and coming back a little bit later. In the court of law in New South Wales, you are allowed to use one if it's an even playing field. Now this is not black and white, it's kind of grey, but it's arguable if it's an even playing field. If I was at home and someone, broke into my house and had a knife and I ran into the kitchen and grabbed a knife, that could be argued. However, this is where I have a bit of an issue, is that in that, that circumstance, if we apply the reality-based framework to knives, and I'm not sure why it gets a free run, but if I have a knife against knife fight, the adrenal response that I'll get will be far greater than hand-to-hand, far greater. So if we can't rely on fine motor for hand-to-hand, why do we allow it in knife against knife? Wouldn't it be the opposite? Wouldn't it be less likely that you could? So in my opinion, you'd have to rely on gross motor. So all this, trapping and all this business, it wouldn't happen. And if anyone has any videos of that, in a real life situation out there, please share it because I'd love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. So if we apply that framework that we apply to reality-based self-defense, it doesn't really fit. If we also apply it in another sense, in that, a lot of people will say, and I see it all the time, that they say I wouldn't train with anyone that hasn't got this to work or hasn't used it in real time. How many of the instructors out there have actually stabbed someone? How do we know it works? Have we actually seen them stab someone? Going by that context, the true masters wouldn't be found in any dojo around Sydney. They'd be found in the Goulburn Supermax prison because they're the people that have got it to work. If I was involved in a circumstance where I had to use a knife against someone, it would be the absolute worst of the worst situations imaginable. Someone would have had to have done horrific. It would have to be life or death for me to be able to use that. And I think that would be the same for the general population. You just see if there's a verbal argument, how shaken up people get. But imagine, taking it to that level where you need a blade. Like that's just, it'd have to be the worst of the worst situations. And if I was in that situation, I'd be so emotionally charged that I wouldn't be thinking clearly. So again, all these fine motor movements would go out the window, no doubt, no doubt. Other people state that you need to know how to use the tool. I don't know about you, but I've been using a knife since I was 6 years of age. I know which one's the sharp end, I know which end's the handle. I'm pretty sure I know how to use it. Factor in that I've done boxing and other things like that, you put a blade in my hand and I'm not that bad at it. I don't have to go and learn another system. Also, if you factor in that we do so much empty hand versus blade, that when you're the bad guy, you just become incidentally better at it. So to go out and learn something totally new, irrelevant in my opinion. If you disagree with me, by all means let us know and prove me wrong. And if you prove me wrong, I'll happily put it back in our curriculum. But right now, I can't see the relevance of it.